you for doing
You're
this
welcome,
with
Brad.
me. I appreciate you very much.
My pleasure.
Could you state your name for us?
Tim Goedeker.
Tim Goedeker. You don't pronounce the O.
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't.
So tell our friends out there who is Tim.
Ooh, who is Tim? That's a deep question. Let's see. Gosh, born and raised in St. Louis back 1960, so we'll be 64 this year. Um, for this group, I was born not a runner,
Uh huh.
not a runner, as a baseball player and a soccer player.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, to the extent I ran while I was in playing soccer, but
Hmm.
that was it.
In like for schools
For
or
school, for high
okay.
school, for grade school, high school,
Hmm.
did that. Went to college.
What did you go to college?
Went to Purdue.
Purdue. All
Got a
right.
chemical engineering degree at Purdue.
One of the best.
It's a good school.
Hmm.
It's a good school. I grew up in the Midwest, so we,
Yeah.
we looked for different engineering schools.
St. Louis, right?
Yeah, yep, St. Louis.
Hmm.
Thought maybe I would play baseball in college, but once I got to college, I realized no, I just go study.
Hmm.
And then actually, I started a co-op after my first year of freshman engineering. I went into basically industry and worked in refining
Hmm.
for 5 semesters, and that's kind of how I got into and stayed with engineering and started with Conoco back in '84.
Okay. As a chemical
As a
engineer.
chemical engineer working in refineries basically my whole career.
Okay. Did you start at Chronicle in Houston or in different?
No, yeah, I was different places. Started the first 2 years were in Ponca City, Oklahoma,
Okay.
which is where the engineering center was
Hmm.
back in the day,
Yeah.
and then 3 years in Lake Charles, 4 years here in Houston in the corporate office,
Hmm.
15 years up in Billings at the refinery with a whole bunch of different
Okay.
roles,
Mhm.
operations, engineering, all that sort of
I
thing.
see.
And then back here to Houston for the last, whatever, 20, something like that.
Okay. And then through your entire career, you've been just a chemical engineer doing things related to oil and gas,
Oil,
refining.
yeah, basically refining. One stint in what's called commercial, so you buy and sell or trade products. So
Hmm.
asphalt. I was moving a lot of asphalt that the
Okay.
refineries were making because we sold that to folks who use it for the roads, but also some
Okay.
special products.
Because that's a byproduct of
Yep,
the
yep,
oil production.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I understand you're retired.
I am retired. I
Cool.
retired in 22, in August of 22. It was a big year.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. A lot of things going on that year
Yeah.
on the running space. We'll get to that, I'm sure, in a
Hmm.
moment.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, what a career! And I understand we just chat a little bit. You still do a little bit of consulting on the
I
side,
do.
work part time to
Got
keep
to
busy.
keep the mind active. Even though I'm 64, I may live for another 30 years. You got to keep the mind active.
Exactly, and that's what I hear about people. Once they retire, you got to figure out what you're going to retire into.
Hmm.
If
Yeah, I
you're going to
mean,
retire into the couch, that's not a good idea.
well, it is interesting. Like you say, you have more time, but you also hear people say, "I don't know why I didn't retire sooner because I'm doing so much." Well, you're
Hmm.
doing more for yourself
Yeah,
than you are for the company.
yeah.
But you can definitely keep yourself very occupied, or you can be very, very sedentary and
Hmm.
just sit in front of the TV or on the iPhone or iPad.
Right.
You got to force yourself to get out and be active.
Yep, yep. And I'm so glad that you're still very active, both professionally and personally. As far as personally, we've met a couple of
Hmm.
times at various running functions, whether it's park or other events.
Yep,
You always wear this orange shirt.
I do.
Tell us about the shirt. What does that mean?
So, so my son, he'll be 33 in 3 weeks. Developed Crohn's disease back when he was 11.
Crohn's. Okay.
Crohn's.
What's his name?
His name's Nick.
Okay.
So Crohn's is an inflammatory bowel disease. So you may hear of it as Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And about 2015, so what does that make? Almost 10 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I got an email from the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. Not sure how they found me, but they found me
Mm-hmm.
about joining Team Challenge.
Okay.
And so I went and I joined, and I had already just started running half marathons the year before.
Yeah.
And so I got involved. It's a fundraising group, and ever since I've been with that group, I wear the shirt, not just at races,
Mm-hmm.
but every time I'm out. So people will always see me like the group probably sees me and says, okay, I know that guy because he wears an orange shirt.
Yeah.
I'm always wearing the orange shirt or an orange singlet.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a few of them, so it's not always the same one. But but I always do that just to get awareness out there. And if someone says, "Hey, what's IBD?" or
hmm
"What's Crohn's?" at least it gives me 10 or 15 seconds to explain it, and that's
Explain
the
to
whole
them.
point.
So is this disease, is it, it's not genetic, is it?
It's I don't. It could be. I mean, it's a gut disease.
hmm
So, um, but it is interesting. There are quite a few folks who have identical twins.
hmm
So I know a couple. They're two sons. They're identical twins. One has Crohn's or ulcerative colitis. One doesn't.
Mm.
So so there may be some genetics in there, but there's also something to do with the environment that we live in, or
Okay.
the right. So and it's basically a
Okay.
gut autoimmune disease.
Okay. All right.
And so that's why I do that. I mean, that's actually why I run. I don't,
hmm
like I mentioned, running is not necessarily something I aspire to do, but I do it primarily because of Nick and
hmm
the other couple million folks in the U.S. that have it.
And is this a disease that attacks a particular group of people, or um, it
Um,
attacks all kinds of people,
yeah, it
all ages, races?
all ages. There tends to be um, folks from Eastern Europe
hmm
tend to have a higher uh, possible potential of it,
Okay.
from what I understand.
hmm
But it's all people, races, where you come from,
hmm
that sort of thing. It's primarily pediatric,
Okay.
so it's primarily kids. But you're hearing more and more folks my age, actually, in their 50s and
Oh,
60s,
really?
starting to get it. So
Oh,
if
wow.
but it predominantly is a disease that affects young kids, and
hmm
that's why it's very challenging because Nick had got it when he was 11. Some
hmm
kids get it when they're much younger, and you
hmm
think about having a disease. It's a bathroom disease,
Yeah.
right? It affects your whole intestinal tract. So if you
hmm
have colitis, it just affects the colon.
hmm
If you have Crohn's, it affects the whole GI tract.
Okay. Oh,
Okay,
wow.
so it's primarily a bathroom disease in that you go to the bathroom a lot. So you think about kids really young, and someone just can't has to go to the bathroom all the time, and other kids don't understand that it's a
hmm
disease. So it's a very challenging disease for kids, especially from the mental,
hmm
emotional state.
Okay.
Um, so
So with the disease Crohn's, how functional is an adult like Nick?
it depends on how severe the case is.
hmm
It could be a really severe case that they are able to do their day-to-day activities because of medication they're on.
Mm.
A number of people have an ostomy bag.
Mm-hmm.
Some have permanent ones, some have temporary ones. And so
Okay.
Nick has one, a temporary one, and that was
Mm-hmm.
like night and day.
Mm-hmm.
When he had a real bad flare, the doctor said, "There's really not a lot of other things to do. I can put you on a trial drug,
Mm-hmm.
or I can put you on this ileostomy temporarily." And he said, "Let's go to the ileostomy."
Yeah.
He's about 5'10".
Mm-hmm.
At that time, he had just had a flare, came out of the hospital. He was about 130 pounds. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that was
Oh,
in
that. Yeah.
August. He got the bag. By Thanksgiving, he ran the turkey trot with me. He was back up to 170 pounds within
Oh,
about a
wow.
month or two.
That's.
So, because IBD affects your ability to absorb nutrients, so you tend to see folks with IBD who are in active treatment, it's not in remission, or they're on the thin side,
Very skinny.
right? Very skinny. But when he got the bag, it was like night and day.
Mm.
I mean, he looked normal.
Yeah.
Inside, he still has issues,
Okay. I see.
but it depends on what your treatment is. There are folks in remission,
Mm-hmm.
but what it's not a disease that has any cure. So while they're in remission, they can still have a flare. It could still come back. So they're
I
taking
see.
medications or they're doing things
Mm-hmm.
to help mitigate the potential of a flare,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not cured.
Okay, I
There
see.
there are no cures for it.
So they contact the foundation. That'll be the Crohn's and
Yeah,
Colitis Foundation. Contact you. How many years ago? You said
2015.
2015. Okay, that's wow, 10 years ago.
Yeah,
And they've contacted you to raise awareness amongst the public and
yeah,
also to raise
yeah,
funds for
yeah.
research, right?
That's right.
You said there's no cure yet.
Right.
Are they getting close to it?
They
Or
have some pretty cool product. I say products,
mhm,
research ideas. So, for example, like this, my Fitbit.
mhm,
There's a professor at UT that has developed a kind of like a watch
mhm,
that measures the sweat glands, and they can determine, are you having a flare or not.
mm,
And so there's research into tools and means to manage. There's research into medications to manage. Then there's also research into cures.
okay.
So they are moving closer to cures, but they're also moving closer to better ways to help you manage
Manage.
the
Yeah.
disease. Because if you can help people manage it while they're still working on the cures, that's a win as well.
Kind
Um,
of like type 1 and type 2
yeah, yeah,
diabetes, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Management is really
yeah. I know
big.
that well. My mom had type 1. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I see. All right. Now back, let's talk about you raising awareness
Mhm.
and running all kinds of events to um, basically run on behalf of your son, Nick,
Right, right,
to not only raise awareness but also raise funds for the foundation. And then you started 10 years ago,
right.
right? What was your first race?
Rhythm and Blues half marathon here in town,
Okay.
February of 2014. I've got a list, right? We all have lists of
Okay.
where we ran. So
Yeah.
I did that was my first half.
hmm Did you wear the shirt?
I did not because I had not gotten to this group yet.
Okay. Okay.
But kind of my history was, so I think I mentioned to you before, right? I had colon cancer when I was 33.
hmm
Um,
Cancer survivor.
Cancer survivor, stage 3. Did a
hmm
year's worth of chemo. So I was involved in kind of fundraising for American Cancer Society for those kind of things. They
hmm
had they had a lot of walks, and so I started doing 5Ks.
Okay.
Did a 5K, did a bunch of 5Ks, and one day I'm out running. Like, could I do a 10K? So
hmm
I ran 3 miles, and I said, okay. Had my earbuds on. Can I run another three? Ran three.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. I can do it. Then fast forward. I ran three. I'm at six. Well, yeah, 6 miles. So I'm at 10K. Like, okay, can I do another three? I got to nine.
hmm
Well, the day that I got to nine, I said, well, can I get to 13? So I just kept ran. So then I did just an unplanned half marathon. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
fine, I can do that. And then somewhere along the line, I decided I'm going to run a half marathon.
Okay.
So I did that first one, and like everybody on their first one, I ran too fast on the first mile. I ran like
hmm
a 7-minute mile for the
Oh,
first one.
that's a little hot.
It was really hot. It was not a good, smart thing to do. I was dead the rest of the
hmm
11, 12 miles. But that was my start. And
Yeah.
then I didn't do one for a year.
hmm
And then the next one was Aramco that
Okay.
following January
January, right?
of
Right.
15. And
Okay.
in the spring of 15, so I ran that one. And then in the spring of 15, that's when I got the email that talked about Team Challenge. So I
hmm
got involved with them in the spring. And then the first one with them, which would have been my third half, was in Napa, the Napa to Sonoma.
Ooh.
So that's kind of how I got hooked. So at the time, the Team Challenge organization, it was very large. There
hmm
was 800 people
Okay.
there
Wow.
in Napa. And so we would do Napa in July, and we would do New Orleans in whenever the rock and roll happened. So
hmm
depending on when Mardi Gras happened. So it was
Yeah.
going to be February or March. And I did 3 of those.
Okay.
And that's kind of how I got busy and involved with the foundation on
hmm
fundraising.
Okay. And so you just go to these races. I presume you register and pay for
Mhm.
the race yourself. You wear their shirt.
Mhm.
Whoever has questions, you talk to them about
Yep,
it,
yep.
and you have understand your initial goal was to run a half marathon in every state in the union.
No,
No.
that was
Okay.
not my initial goal.
Okay.
So interesting. So I'm not a runner.
hmm
So I've done 3 Napas, and I've done three or four New Orleans. I'm like,
It's kind of
okay,
okay. It's kind of boring,
it is. That's
huh?
right. I mean, well, what else is there to do?
Yeah.
Does anybody run a half in a state? I get on Google, and
hmm
sure, there's the 50 states half marathon group. So
hmm
I signed up for that.
Okay.
So that's how. So it was something that I didn't want it just to be boring. And that, okay, I mean, it's not boring with the running group, but
Right.
is this all there is to
Right.
it? And so that's how I got
That'll
started.
be 2016, 2017.
Probably 17 was
You
when
got
I
that
started.
idea of running in all 50 states. Okay.
And my first non Napa and non rock and roll was Boston half.
Okay.
Because you always hear about Boston fall. Like,
Hmm.
okay, does anybody do a Boston half? And yes, the BAA puts on a half in the
Yes, they do.
fall. So I ran it, and that was, do you know Mark Coleman?
Mark Coleman.
Mark Coleman coaches a lot of folks in running. The folks in the group would know. So Mark was our coach here in Houston,
Hmm.
and he told me about hypothermia, and so told me some scary stories about some things that happened at the Chevron in years past. So I'm up in Boston, and it's in October, first or second week in October, and it's like a day like today, but it's raining harder and it's colder,
Yeah.
right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna freeze. So what do? They give you a long sleeve shirt,
Uh huh.
right? So that was my kind of after run kit. I put it on because I'm getting cold, and I
Yeah.
have my little poncho.
Hmm.
What do? I wear my long sleeve shirt and my poncho while I ran.
Oh.
Oh my God, horrible, because I just was so hot.
Yeah.
And then finish the race, and the poncho tears, and you're standing in line to get your goodies and your food and all that. I'm freezing. So lesson learned: you don't necessarily get hypothermia when you're running because
You got to know
you're really
yourself.
warm.
You know,
And
you
I
got to
didn't know
know
that.
your own body, right?
I
Do
didn't know
you
that
tend to run hot or run cold?
because I ran in New Orleans and I ran in Napa, and it never rained in either of those six. So
Yeah.
a lot of learning,
Yeah. Right.
a lot of learnings.
Yeah. You every race there's something
Yeah,
new that you learn.
yeah.
All right. So you have gone through every state.
I've gone through every state. When I retired, I mentioned retired. The year I retired, 22,
22, right?
was a crazy year running because I had been running for a while to do the 50 states. I said, I just want to get it done.
Mm-hmm.
So I did 19 half marathons in 2022.
Ooh, that is a lot. You were traveling a whole bunch
I
then.
did, and I did 8 after I retired in 2 months, 2.5 months.
Mm,
I just want to be done.
yeah.
And so, yeah, October of 2022 was my 50th state, which was Portland, Maine, was my last one.
Last one.
Yep,
When did you hit the further off jurisdictions like Hawaii and Alaska?
I did though. So I did Maui with the Crohn's group. That was a
Hmm.
lot of fun. And then actually I went back.
When was that? Which year?
Let me look at my list.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Maui. Where is Hawaii? Well, there's a second one. Oh, I guess that was 22.
22. Oh, so you were really serious that year. Got
I
a lot done.
did,
Yeah.
yeah.
How about a lot?
Actually, 20. So 19. So 19 was the first. That's right. So we went twice. So
Mm,
2019 was the first time with the Crohn's group, and 2022 was the second time with the
okay.
Crohn's group.
How about Alaska?
Alaska would have been 22. That was
Also, wow.
yeah. That was the one in June. I think they call it the Mares. It's on the solstice.
Somebody was telling me about it the
That
other
was
day.
awesome.
Yeah.
That was awesome. At 10:30,
Curtis, yeah, told me about
at
it.
10:30 at night, coming out
Uh huh.
from the restaurant,
Hmm.
it looks like it's 5:30 in the afternoon here.
But it's midnight.
To 10:30,
Okay.
even at 2:30 in the morning, it's
Yeah.
still dusky out. It's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Alaska's cool. If you're gonna do one,
Oh yeah.
do the solstice one
I want to do that. That sounded so
because the weather is
interesting.
mild.
Yeah.
It's not super cold,
Mhm.
but you can then. And the fun part of that is really it's just going out. So it's in Anchorage. That one's in
Mhm.
Anchorage. But the fun part is driving a couple hours north or south and just seeing what's around. And
Yeah.
you can go down to the glaciers about an hour south.
Yeah, that is certainly going to be a destination race for me.
Yeah.
I'm seriously thinking about it.
And folks will do a cruise. They'll do a cruise, and then they'll set up, like folks who were doing the run when I was there were actually then getting on a cruise and either cruising back down to Washington State, or they had just cruised up from Washington State and then
Mhm.
did the run. So there's a lot of cruisers in
That's
that area.
cool. That's cool.
Yeah, Maui was fun. I've been to Hawaii quite a bit. There's one in Oahu. That's a lot of fun. You run
Okay.
around Diamond Head,
Mm.
so that's
Right.
good.
So you finished your last one. That was Maine, right?
Maine, yeah. Uh-huh.
And then you move on to Canada.
So my next goal, right? So all the running really is about fundraising and
Mhm.
getting the awareness out. So I had finished my 50th state, and I had like 65 halves done.
Mhm.
So what do I do next? So along the way, running the 50 states and the other 60, I've been lucky and been able to raise about $300,000.
That is
And,
amazing.
and so I was like 65. What do I do? I said, okay, why don't I pick a goal of I'll run to 100 half marathons to try and raise another $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I got started on that journey.
Yep.
And then I heard someone on this 50 states group, they were running in Canada. Like, why are you doing that? And I realized I could run the Canadian provinces. So I added so my last tranche to get to 100,
Mm-hmm.
I'm adding the 10 Canadian provinces. So I've done 2 so far.
Okay. What? So that'll be 70,
So I'm at 77 now. I just did
77.
77 last weekend in
Okay.
Key West.
Okay. So you got another 23 to go.
Mm-hmm.
And how many provinces have you hit in Canada?
Did 2. So I did Newfoundland and
Newfoundland.
Nova Scotia.
Okay.
And those are a lot of fun. Halifax, Nova Scotia is a lot of fun. It's a fun city.
Mm-hmm.
Newfoundland. So last weekend I was in Key West. So the southernmost place in
North
North
America.
America.
Yep.
And Newfoundland is the easternmost place
So I
in
heard.
North America.
Yeah, we got a
Very
friend
cool.
in our group who is from actually from Newfoundland.
Okay.
Yeah, he was telling about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's not a lot of people there,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a very there's a lot of neat things to see up there in Newfoundland. So that's the goal.
Yeah.
Do all the
So
provinces.
move through
Mhm.
all 10 provinces. How many years do you think this is going to take you to do your 2023?
To get done.
Mhm.
Oh,
Are
this is
you
2025, probably 2028.
okay? So
I'll get
three
it
three
done.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. You know when? Do you have any other goals beyond running 100 paths?
Actually, I'll keep running after 100 because
Okay.
it's all about the fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just kind of saying, okay, let's get another 100, see if we can raise another 100K. But I'll continue
So
to
that
run
will
and do
once
things.
you get there, that will mean you will have raised 400,000.
If I can get to that point, yeah,
Are you thinking of like $500,000?
whatever I can do. I mean, until it's interesting because I talk about the Crohn's group I run with.
Mm-hmm.
They're all around the country, so I call that my second family.
Yeah.
And there's probably 200-300 people I know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we're all kind of doing our little bit to help.
It's a collective effort.
Yeah. So whatever I can do to help, because there are names and faces to the disease. It's not just my son. I know lots of other folks, their kids and whatnot that have it, and it's got to keep doing
Yeah.
things.
By the way, as of now? Is there any kind of data about how many total number of patients with the Crohn's or colitis?
What is it? It's like
At least here in America, in the U.S.
It was 1 in 300 about 4 or 5 years ago. Their
Mhm.
new data has come back that it's much closer to between, let's say, 1.5 and 100.
Okay.
Right. So it's not like a cancer where there's a higher, but there's probably more than that. You just don't always know. It's a
Yeah.
disease that gets mistreated quite a bit because it happens in kids, and kids explain that they've got stomach issues and bowel issues, and if you don't find the right GI doc,
They may not know.
So it's probably more like 2 or 3 in 100 have it.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's millions.
Okay.
There's millions.
Now with the fundraiser, how is that done? Do people just go to a particular website to donate?
Yeah.
Or-
So whenever I post stuff, and I've done this on my Strava,
Mhm.
and I'll do it on my Facebook, and I actually go out to LinkedIn. I'm not bashful,
Mhm.
and I'll talk about some things I'm doing, and then
Yeah.
I'll have a link,
Okay.
and it's just a fairly simple thing. And my races change, but my link always stays
Okay.
the same.
Now for potential audience of this video, what is that link? Do you know?
I didn't bring it.
You know what I will do is that
I'll send it to you. And you can put
send
it
me.
in
I'll put it on the
Right.
screen
I'll do
so
that.
that folks can donate. Is there like a minimum amount that folks can donate, or just
whatever they want.
like $10, $50, $1,000, whatever they
Whatever
want?
they want. I mean,
Okay.
because they're all contributing
Yeah.
to making a difference, regardless. And even if people, when I talk to people when I'm running, clearly they're not donating, but it's developing awareness.
Yeah.
And so even if people don't donate, but they learn more about the disease, because if you have 10 friends with you,
Mhm.
all right, 1 or 2 either have it or know of a family member or friend that has it.
Mhm.
I mean, it's that widespread.
Yeah, I think the awareness is really important for diseases like this. I remember a few years ago the what was that, ALS, the
Hmm.
ice bucket challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of raised awareness of the ALS condition. And
Hmm.
I, but for you, I really would not know this Crohn's and colitis condition, really.
And again, like I said, that's why I
Yeah.
always wear the singlet, and it on the back of it talks about running for Nick and the other 3 million that have
Hmm.
it and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I think you just mentioned that you're running for Nick. I always ask the folks that I talk with on camera, you know, why do they run? You just mentioned you're running for Nick,
Hmm.
and you're running for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation for awareness or for fundraising. Are there any other reason that you're running for?
Not really. I mean, that's it. I mean,
Hmm.
like I mentioned, I'd be playing golf. I would be playing more golf
Right.
because that's really one of my passions. But we need to give back.
Yeah.
We've been blessed. I was fortunate. Like I mentioned, I'm a cancer survivor. I was very fortunate. We need
Hmm.
to give back. We need to give help with awareness. So I was doing that with on the cancer side when Nick got his Crohn's, and as a parent, you're helping them get through it. And then as they get to a young adult, what
Hmm.
do? They have their own life. So, but what I can do is I can run, I can advocate. So I actually do go. I do. I've been up to DC a couple times
Hmm.
talking to senators and representatives about IBD and
Hmm.
legislation they can pass at the federal level. There's quite a few folks that do it at the state level, and I'll stay
Hmm.
involved with those things too. So whatever I can do to get the outcomes we need,
Hmm.
if it's research money from the government or whatever.
So when you go to the DC or
Mhm.
go to legislators, the purpose of that is just again to raise awareness so that they can appropriate funds for
Yeah,
additional research,
yeah,
right?
and so when we do it as the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation, but it again, IBD is an autoimmune disease, so you have
Hmm.
those 8 or 9 other types of diseases that are autoimmune. So we sort of team up, but
Hmm.
everybody talks to their respective legislators because there's quite a bit of federal funding that can go to research.
Yeah, yeah,
There's quite a bit.
yeah. You just need to ask for it.
That's
Not
right.
don't be bashful.
No, that's right. I
Yeah.
mean, even the veterans, the vets. There's quite a few vets that have IBD. I don't know if
Hmm.
it's due to the stress, because I mean, stress is one big issue that leads to
That
IBD.
causes this.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. I see. That's what a great reason to run. Just to run for your son, awareness of this condition, and thank you for all that you've done to raise awareness.
Appreciate that.
And $300,000 is no small
It's a
amount.
step.
Yeah, it is
It's a step.
certainly a big step towards hopefully finding a cure someday.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
um,
the vision.
right now, just one last question on the maybe on the lighter side before we finish this is you've run 77. Which
Hmm.
one is your absolute favorite?
Everybody asks that, and
Hmm.
they're all different.
Hmm. One do you keep thinking about?
Well, Maui.
Maui.
I
Okay.
mean, I love Maui.
Yeah.
It has more significance now after the Lahaina fire, and
Hmm.
the run is different. The guy that organizes this he's a great guy, and even after the fire,
Hmm.
they still have the run. It's in a different part of Maui. It's not
Hmm.
up in Lahaina, but I always think of that one because it's Maui is such a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And I enjoy warm versus cold. I mean, Alaska was a lot of fun
Hmm.
going and seeing
Hmm.
uh, the the hillside, just
Hmm.
all that nature you never see, seeing the glaciers.
Yeah.
But if I'm gonna go where I want to enjoy, I'd go warm.
Okay.
So
I
it's
see.
Maui.
Yeah.
It's Maui because you run the old course. We ran right along the ocean for
Hmm.
gosh, all but 4 miles. So four out to 8 and back. Yeah,
I bet it's really beautiful.
it was. And we started early. We started
Hmm.
right at I think 6.
Hmm.
So because it got super hot, but
Hmm.
that was the one.
All right.
Maui's the one.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Tim. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.